This content is for informational purposes only and does not replace professional medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for personal health concerns. Have you ever stood in the supplement aisle, staring at rows of vibrant bottles promising to neutralize free radicals, and turn back your biological clock, only to wonder if those pills are actually doing anything at all? We live in an era where the term antioxidant has become a shorthand for health, a magical shield we assume protects us from the inevitable wear and tear of living. But beneath the polished marketing and the glowing testimonials lies a far more complex and nuanced scientific reality that rarely makes it onto the labels. For decades, we have been told that high-dose supplementation is the key to longevity, vitality, and cellular defense. The logic seems sound. We know that oxidative stress, a state where unstable molecules called free radicals outpace our body's natural defenses, is linked to aging and chronic illness. Naturally, the leap to more is better felt like a logical solution. Yet, as researchers have peeled back the layers of these claims, the picture has become increasingly blurry. In some instances, evidence shows that flooding the system with synthetic, high-dose antioxidants might even interfere with the body's own sophisticated, built-in repair mechanisms. It is easy to get swept up in the pursuit of a quick fix, but biology is rarely that straightforward. Your body is not a static container waiting to be filled with vitamins. It is a dynamic, self-regulating ecosystem that thrives on balance rather than excess. When we introduce concentrated supplements, we are often bypassing the complex synergy found in whole foods, where nutrients work in concert rather than in isolation. This brings us to a fundamental question. If our bodies are already equipped with powerful machinery to handle oxidative stress, are we helping ourselves by adding more, or are we potentially disrupting a delicate internal equilibrium? Let's shift our focus to the inner workings of your cells to see exactly how this oxidation process functions, and why the reality is much more fascinating than the marketing suggests. To grasp the true nature of this interaction, we must first picture your cells not as static structures, but as bustling, high-energy factories. Within this environment, the process of generating energy, the very fuel that keeps your heart beating and your brain firing, inevitably produces metabolic byproducts. Imagine these as incomplete molecules, defined by an unpaired electron. In the world of chemistry, stability is the ultimate goal, and this lone, wandering electron makes free radicals incredibly reactive. When a free radical successfully steals an electron from a healthy molecule, it triggers a chain reaction. Suddenly, the once stable molecule that lost its electron becomes a free radical itself, creating a domino effect of cellular instability. If this process remains unchecked, it can lead to damage within your proteins, lipids, and even your DNA. It is a biological tug-of-war that occurs every single second of your life. Often described as the body's defenders, antioxidants are essentially generous donors. Because of their unique chemical makeup, they can afford to lose an electron without becoming unstable themselves. They act as a stabilizing force, halting the chain reaction before it can cause widespread cellular disruption. In this way, they support the maintenance of homeostasis, that perfect, quiet balance your body works tirelessly to sustain. However, the biological reality is significantly more nuanced. Your body does not merely wait for dietary intake to manage these levels. It produces its own sophisticated network of internal antioxidants, such as glutathione and superoxide dismutase, precisely calibrated to meet current demands. As we move forward, we need to examine whether the presence of these compounds always translates to a healthier cellular environment, or if there is a threshold where our good intentions might actually collide with the body's complex, self-regulating design. To understand whether that threshold of interference exists, we must first confront the relentless pressures that force your cells into a state of high alert. Every breath you take fuels your internal power plants, the mitochondria, to generate the energy required for every heartbeat and every thought. This biological combustion is incredibly efficient, but it is never perfect. This is an endogenous process, a built-in tax on your metabolism that your body is constantly working to offset. When your body detects a perceived threat, it intentionally deploys oxidative bursts to neutralize pathogens and repair damaged tissue. Inflammation, in this context, is a double-edged sword. It is a vital defensive maneuver that, if left running for too long, can spill over and begin to degrade the very healthy cells it was meant to protect. The modern environment presents a constant barrage of exogenous stressors that can overwhelm even the most robust internal defense systems. Think of air pollution or the particulate matter found in urban smoke. These inhaled toxins force your respiratory and circulatory systems to divert resources toward detoxification. Then, there is the silent, pervasive influence of UV radiation. Similarly, the habits we adopt, most notably smoking, introduce a flood of oxidant chemicals directly into the bloodstream. Studies indicate that these external factors do not just add to the total burden, they can fundamentally alter the signaling pathways your cells use to communicate their status. Diets high in processed sugars and unstable fats can induce a state of systemic stress that forces the body to prioritize immediate damage control over long-term cellular maintenance. When you combine these environmental factors with a nutrition profile that lacks the raw materials needed for repair, you create a perfect storm. By identifying these triggers, we begin to see that oxidative stress is rarely the result of a single event, but rather the cumulative effect of these daily pressures. That distinction is exactly where the debate over supplementation shifts from simple biology to a much more complex clinical reality. To recognize that tipping point, we must look beyond the abstract concept of cellular chemistry and observe how this imbalance manifests in our daily lived experience. These aren't always acute symptoms. More often, they are quiet shifts in your baseline well-being that you might initially dismiss as just a busy week or the natural passage of time. Consider the persistent weight of chronic fatigue. It isn't merely about needing more sleep, it is a profound, cellular-level sluggishness that lingers regardless of your rest patterns. Research suggests that when cells are occupied with repairing oxidative damage, they have fewer resources left for the metabolic heavy lifting required to keep you feeling vibrant and alert. Premature aging of the skin is perhaps the most tangible reflection of what is happening beneath the surface. When collagen and elastin fibers are subjected to consistent oxidative pressure, their structural integrity weakens. If you notice a loss of elasticity or a dullness that seems out of sync with your age, your body might be signaling a systemic struggle to neutralize reactive molecules. Even more concerning are the shifts in our mental clarity. Because the brain is highly oxygen-dependent and rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids, it is uniquely vulnerable to oxidative attack. Medical professionals often point out that long-term neural health is heavily dependent on maintaining a stable environment free from the rusting effect of unchecked free radicals. Chronic inflammation is frequently the byproduct of oxidative stress. It is a self-perpetuating cycle where damaged cells release signals that recruit the immune system, leading to persistent, low-grade swelling or joint discomfort. When your system is perpetually in this state of alert, it becomes less capable of managing even minor stressors, leaving you feeling fragile. These symptoms act as a biological dashboard, providing you with data that is far more personalized than any lab test. Once we acknowledge that the body is signaling a need for better defense, we must determine if our current strategies are actually providing the support we think they are, or if we are merely masking the underlying fire. So, if you're looking to douse that internal fire, the most intuitive path is often the most misunderstood. We have become accustomed to the pill for every ill culture, where we attempt to strip the complexity of nature down to a single, isolated compound. We grab a high-dose antioxidant supplement, convinced that we are delivering a concentrated strike against oxidative stress. Yet, research suggests that this reductionist approach rarely mirrors the profound benefits observed in those who consume a diverse, plant-forward diet. Think of a strawberry or a handful of kale not as a delivery vehicle for one specific vitamin, but as a sophisticated, pre-packaged chemical orchestra. When you consume a whole fruit or vegetable, you aren't just getting a solitary antioxidant. You are ingesting a vast array of phytochemicals, fiber, minerals, and enzymes that have evolved to interact in concert. Studies indicate that these components work better together than apart. For instance, the vitamin C in an orange is significantly more effective when accompanied by the thousands of other phytonutrients present in the pulp, as they stabilize one another and enhance absorption in ways that a synthetic capsule simply cannot replicate. When we isolate these compounds into megadoses, we risk disrupting the body's delicate internal equilibrium. In fact, some clinical trials have shown that when antioxidants are removed from their biological context and delivered in unnaturally high concentrations, they can occasionally behave in ways that are unexpected, and sometimes even counterproductive, to cellular health. Your body is a master of homeostasis. It prefers a steady, consistent stream of nutrients from whole sources rather than a sudden, overwhelming flood from an isolated source. Choosing whole foods is essentially giving your cells the raw materials they were designed to recognize. It is about moving away from the idea that we can outsource our health to a bottle, and instead recognizing that the most potent biological defense is found in the vibrant, complex architecture of a whole food diet. By prioritizing these nutrient-dense staples, you provide the biological landscape necessary for your cells to thrive, rather than just survive. It is time to look at how these daily choices translate into the broader picture of your longevity and cellular resilience. That broader picture, however, is far more nuanced than supplement marketing would have you believe. When we zoom out to look at the latest clinical data, a fascinating, and perhaps surprising, pattern emerges. Yet, recent large-scale meta-analyses have challenged this more is more mentality. We are seeing evidence that flooding the system with high-dose, isolated antioxidant supplements can actually blunt your body's natural adaptation mechanisms. Instead of building resilience, we might be fostering a state of cellular dependency. Some studies have even indicated that in specific contexts, excessive supplementation can interfere with the very oxidative signaling pathways that signal your muscles to grow stronger after exercise or your immune system to mobilize against threats. It turns out that the temporary, controlled stress of oxidation is a vital biological trigger, not just a destructive force to be eliminated at all costs. The goal is not to achieve an antioxidant-sterile environment, but rather to cultivate a state of biological equilibrium. Your body is a master of homeostasis. It doesn't need to be micromanaged with synthetic megadoses. True protection doesn't come from a bottle on your nightstand. It is built through the consistency of your choices, the variety of colors on your plate, the quality of your movement, and the depth of your recovery. In summary, prioritize the complexity of whole foods over the simplicity of isolated supplements. Understand that your body is designed to handle manageable levels of oxidative stress, and that your internal defense systems are far more capable than we once gave them credit for. Focus on the long game, sustainable habits that support your body's innate ability to repair, adapt, and flourish. This content is for informational purposes only. If you found this information helpful, consider subscribing to stay updated on our future deep dives into the science of well-being.